adventure of the Christian life. Maybe you didn't know that the Christian life was a high adventure. I sure didn't when I was a kid. In the first of the series, she talked about the deep sea diving, the word on meditation. She called it deep sea diving. The second one last week was spiritual spelunking, the art of prayer. And today, the subject that fell into my lap was study. And I wonder if you think study could ever be high adventure. How's she going to do that, I'm wondering. Let me read you the definition out of the Oxford English Dictionary about what adventure is. Adventure is an unusual and exciting and typically hazardous experience or activity. It calls for enterprise and enthusiasm and usually puts something, especially one's money or one's life, at risk. That's the definition of adventure. And today's study, the word study, here's the definition of study. How am I going to pull this off, you're thinking? Study is the careful examination or analysis of a phenomenon, a development, or a question. Study. Adventure? Wow, I wonder. You're wondering too. Well, when I was a kid in school, I didn't think much of study. I studied a lot and I got good grades, but I didn't really like it. And I think one of the problems for me was that I didn't see the relationship between life and what I was studying. Is that true for any of you? You didn't get it. What was science? Why did I have to learn how a refrigerator works? I was not interested. I was interested in the science teacher, Mr. Freeze. He was really cute, so I went to science class. I wasn't interested in chemistry. Chemistry sometimes shows up on dates, doesn't it? I think I got a little interest in that. I was interested marginally in English and stories and so forth. But study was kind of something to be endured for me. And at the same time, I was going to school 5 days a week, and then I was also going to Sunday school, a half a day a week. The law of New Jersey, the state law of New Jersey said you had to go to school. And my mother's law said the same thing about Sunday school. So off I went to Sunday school. Sunday school made only a little bit more sense to me. I had a really good teacher named Mrs. Ford who taught me how to find my way around the Bible. She made us memorize verses. And she also said something from time to time that kind of scared me a little bit. She said, you really need to commit your life to Christ. And that, she said that often enough that I thought, man, I got to get serious about this. So at some point in my life, I think I was a teenager, I gave my life to Christ. Puny commitment, reluctant commitment, but God took me seriously. The reason I was so reluctant, I thought all the fun would be over. Did you ever think that about being a Christian? Not that I was having that much fun anyway, but I thought, this is it. It's over. I was wrong about that. Recently, I rented the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. How many of you have seen that movie? I think it came out in like 1983 or something. 83. But I rented it because I was interested in what the quest was, the Lost Ark. And there were two groups of people who were after the Ark. That is, the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is something you can read about in the Bible. Well, this story is according to Steven Spielberg, I think, and George M. Lucas, so it's not totally biblical. But they got that part right. The Ark of the Covenant was a special rectangular box overlaid with gold, and it was put in the Holy of Holies, in the tabernacle, where the Jewish people came to worship the Lord. And it was a beautiful box with cherubim wings over it, all overlaid in gold. And it was a wonderful thing thing to see, but nobody really saw it because only the high priest saw it once a year. So in that box, do you remember what was in the box? Anybody remember? The 10 Commandments. Yeah, there were a couple of other things in there, but the 10 Commandments were in there. The 10 Commandments that for the people, represented for the people, God's word about how to run their lives in accordance with his will. So I'm thinking, why are these two groups of people wanting to recover the lost ark? Fast forward to 1935, Nazi Germany. Hitler's about to cut his swath across the continent of Europe and take over countries. He wants the ark. He wants the ark. Why does he want it? It's a strange thing for him to want a Jewish relic. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? But he was after it. This is the story according to Steven Spielberg. This is not biblical. Hitler wants it because he wants to carry the ark across Europe as he sends his armies to conquer Europe. Excuse me, I am so dry. I have to take a sip of water here. So the first group that's interested in the ark is this Nazi Germany crowd. And of course they're portrayed as really evil. And then across the pond, on the other side of the world, is a professor of archaeology named Dr. Jones, aka Indiana Jones. His alter ego is this adventurous guy. He wants the ark for obvious reasons. It will be a plum for his university if he can recover that ark. Something in archaeology has, the news has reached these two groups that somebody's going to get this ark and it might as well be, might as well be me. So they head toward the Middle East, and that's the rest of the adventure. That's the story of the movie, how they recover or not the ark, the ark of the covenant of God, the 10 Commandments. The ironic thing is, they don't care what the 10 Commandments say. They're not looking in there to see what God has to say. They just want it for the notoriety or the success, the military success. They don't care that they've broken practically all the commandments to get the ark. Isn't that ironic? If you look at it, if you look at the movie, you can see probably they've broken just about all of them. Thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not have any other gods. The god for them is fame, military might. Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. I don't think there was a whole lot of that in the movie, but they probably did it off stage. Thou shalt not kill. Don't lie. The whole thing. They don't care about what God says. We have these Bibles now in so many translations. I wonder if we really care what God says. Do we really care, or are we like those people where, we really don't care? Presbyterians have not been known to be the people of the book. Well, actually, they have been known to be the people of the book a long time ago. In fact, when the West was evangelized, the West of our country was evangelized, the Presbyterians were back going to seminary before they could become missionaries. The Methodists were already out there. So we were the people of the book at one time, but we don't seem to be anymore. And I wonder why that is. One of the things that I discovered about study was that once I began to study, there was a lot of adventure for me in my life. Because about, I don't know how many years ago, I'm not going to even go there because then you'll start figuring out how old I am. A long time ago, when I was a young mother and had 4 young kids, my life was just really not going well. I had some big troubles. But in the middle of that trouble, I remembered Mrs. Ford, my Sunday school teacher, and what she told me about committing my life to Christ. I made a crummy commitment, but God took me seriously. And somewhere in the process of all that trouble, somebody said to me, why don't you pick up the book again? Why don't you pick up the book? Why don't you read it? And I thought to myself, okay, that's really a great idea. I think I'll read the Gospels. I think I'll find out about Jesus again. He's been kind of lost. I've had him wrapped up in an ark and he's been lost for a while. I think I'll read the Bible again. And you know what happened? My troubles did not leave me. But life got very exciting because I realized that I could count on God to walk through those troubles with me. And he did. He walked through every step of the way. He was there, crummy commitment or not. And the more I read, the hungrier I got. I even started looking for Bible studies so people could tell me, what's this book about? I need to know. I need a different kind of life. I need to walk with God. And so the adventure began. But maybe you're not interested in this book. I wonder why we always cover it in black. The black Bible. Holy Bible. We're not really interested sometimes in reading what it says. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One reason is we're afraid we won't understand what it says, right? Am I ringing any bells here? We're kind of afraid that we won't get it. And the other reason is we're kind of afraid we will. What do you think? Because if you start reading it, God is going to get serious about asking you to step up to the plate, to look at things differently. I looked at my troubles differently, for sure. I looked at them differently, and I began to look at my kids differently, and my marriage, everything, my neighbors. I started looking differently at things. The troubles didn't go away, but I had a different perspective. So I think maybe one of the reasons we're not interested in opening this book and reading is that we're afraid we will understand what it says. And another thing, I think, is we're really good at making New Year's resolutions. January 1st, you say to yourself, okay, this is the year I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to start at the beginning and read it all the way through. Anybody ever did that here? Yeah. One of the problems is I think we start at the wrong place. We start in Genesis. Am I on thin ice here with the theologians? But I think we should start with the main event. And the main event is Jesus Christ. Start there. Read the Gospel of Mark, say, for like a month. Or maybe that's too much. Read it for a week. Read it for a week. And then read it again. And then read it again. And then read one of the other Gospels. And then, if you want some high adventure, read the book of Acts. And then after you get a lot of New Testament under your belt, then go back and read the Old Testament. Because the Old Testament is the story of how God built on all the experience of all human nature, the human race, until he brought the main event, Jesus Christ, to his people, so that they could know who God was really like. It's a really high adventure if you want some excitement. If you don't think life is exciting when you pick this book up, think about a few people that you might know about who have taken the book seriously. For instance, as Nancy described, Abram, God just talked to him. I don't know what his point of faith was, but God said, leave everything behind. He lived in the Fertile Crescent. Really nice place to live at that time. Get up and leave. Where are we going, God? I'll tell you later. Kind of like that. Or think of the Apostle Paul. Shipwrecks. In jail. Speaking the gospel before emperors and kings. What a high adventure that was. Trusting God right up until the last second of his life. Think about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, if you want somebody from a more current example. Dietrich Bonhoeffer in Nazi Germany going to jail for the sake of the gospel. If you've never read his story, there are a couple of really good biographies out on him. He ended up dying just weeks before the Allies came in and released all those people from prison. So maybe you're not looking